Welcome to another video from the Guards Museum. Films bring history to a wide audience, and a good film about the military can entertain and inform in equal parts, but often the priority becomes entertainment and historical accuracy can be lost. So I thought, why not take a look at some of the films that feature the Foot Guard regiments and see how accurate the portrayal is. It's not going to be a film review, but we'll look at some key scenes and place them in their historical context. In this video I'll be looking at the 1977 film A Bridge Too Far. It deals with Operation Market Garden, the daring but ultimately unsuccessful attempt to capture the bridge at Arnhem in Holland in 1944 as a gateway to invade Germany. It's primarily known as an airborne battle due to the use of British and American paratroops and glider troops to capture key bridges on the route of advance. But the very purpose of this was to provide a secured road for the British 30 Corps to advance up from the Belgian border. And this is where the Guards come in, as it's the tanks of the Guards Armoured Division that form the spearhead of this advance. The film amassed an impressive array of vehicles and weapons. Some were genuine, some disguised modern vehicles, and some made from scratch. Suffice it to say that the tanks, jeeps and trucks of 30 Corps are well represented, even if some are wooden frames on Land Rovers. Field Marshal Montgomery's plan involved a greater number of paratroops than D-Day, but was hurriedly put together in just 2 weeks. And this scene deals with a briefing by 30 Corps Commander Lieutenant General Brian Horrocks.
Gentlemen, this is a story that you will tell your grandchildren, and mightily bored they'll be.
Horrocks was a popular leader, and the briefing was full of his usual humour and inspirational tone. The mightily bored they'll be phrase certainly did raise laughs.
The plan is to reach Eindhoven in 2 to 3 hours and Arnhem in 2 to 3 days. The Irish Guards, under the command of Colonel Vandeleur, will take the lead.
Christ, not us again.
Colonel Joe Vandeleur's Irish Guards had led the advance and was looking forward to a rest. His reaction here was certainly what he thought, although apparently he did not say it out loud but told others later. In another scene, which does a very good job of showing the scale of the forces built up, Horrocks explains the difficulty of the task, mainly to the audience.
And I'm still desperately worried about having to throw everything up this road. We can't afford to drop behind schedule. So for God's sake, keep your tanks on the move.
In reality, the 32nd Guards Brigade were to lead a second line of advance from Eindhoven. This was soon abandoned though, and the film sticks to the neater narrative of one road. On the 17th of September, the Irish Guards moved off across the Escaut Canal and followed a rolling barrage at 8 miles an hour. Although not shown in the film, this was the bridge that they'd captured a few days before, and it's known as Joe's Bridge. To many this is because of the connection with Joe Vandeleur, but the honour must also be shared with an engineer captain, Joe Hutton, who removed the German demolition charges to make the bridge secure. The leading elements had just sent the message, advance going well, leading squadron has got through, when the Germans executed a classic anti-tank ambush, letting the first few vehicles through and then opening fire on the main body. As shown here, air support was called in and accurately hit the German positions. In the film, Harvard trainers with bombs stand in for Typhoons armed with rockets. Infantry from the Devon and Dorset regiments accompanying the tanks cleared the enemy positions. Although German anti-tank guns are shown in the film, attacks were also made by infantry with Panzerfaust anti-tank rockets. They were hiding in foxholes by the road and fired at close range. A number of accounts also state that German prisoners assisted in targeting their positions to the British. A Sergeant Cowan even had one standing on his tank, pointing.
How the hell do they expect us to keep to schedule on a road like this? You don't know the worst. This bit we're on now, yes? It's the wide part.
This open plain area was indeed the wide part of the route. Further into Holland, the drained land was typified by narrow roads raised up on dikes, exposing the tanks to fire. Eindhoven was reached on the 18th to scenes of jubilation from the townsfolk in the film and in photos of the day. On the 19th, the tanks move on again, over a Bailey Bridge built overnight at Zon. The accuracy to detail in the film is shown by the fact that the Grenadiers are now shown to be in the lead, a change in uniform that could easily have been overlooked. A number of scenes capture how Horrocks' concerns about the road become reality when enemy action or broken down vehicles delay the whole column. A single tank or anti-tank weapon could hold up the entire advance. Poor weather in Belgium limited the air support that had been so effective on the first day, leaving it to infantry and tanks to find a way through enemy strongpoints. It became known to the Americans as Hell's Highway and to the British as the Club Route. The finale of the action regarding the Guards in the film is the taking of the bridge at Nijmegen. While troops are fighting their way through the city, American paratroops cross the river under heavy fire to take the far end of the bridge. If anything, the film then underplays the last-minute dash across the bridge made by the British before nightfall. 4 Grenadier Guard Shermans crossed the exposed bridge under heavy fire from all angles. 2 were hit, and 1 of them was knocked out. They eventually met up with the Americans and were then joined by a small number of reinforcements, although fighting went on through the night around the bridgehead. Just as in the film, the German General Harmel tried to explode the bridge as the British tanks crossed it, and it's a mystery to this day why the explosives did not go off. It's here that one of the most controversial moments of the battle occurs. The film contrasts the desperate fighting of the paratroops in Arnhem with 30 Corps parked up on the road by the bridge.
We busted our asses getting here. Half my men are killed, and you're just gonna stop and drink tea?
This encounter between Robert Redford, playing American Major Julian Cook, and the Grenadier Guards Major, perhaps in the part of Captain Lord Carrington, is not known to have actually taken place, but the Americans were certainly frustrated that the British stopped rather than charging onto Arnhem. The British, for their part, could not advance without their infantry, which was still mopping up in the town. The paratroops may not have grasped this, being unfamiliar with a corps advance on this scale. They simply could not appreciate how 1 or 2 guns could have stopped an advance of tanks. The film does show the desperate dash that was made for Arnhem the following morning. Number 1 Squadron Irish Guards led off with infantry following on other tanks. They covered half the distance to Arnhem before a single German gun knocked out 4 tanks and blocked the narrow road. Vandeleur moved up as far as he could to assess the situation. Unable to contact the air support, which was circling tantalizingly overhead, and with too few infantry, he reported the advance stalled again. Despite ongoing efforts with fresh troops, efforts to cover the last 6 miles to Arnhem before the Paras were overcome failed. In addition, the Germans were counter-attacking, and forces were needed to protect the ground already taken.
It was Nijmegen.
It was the single road getting to Nijmegen.
It was off to Nijmegen.
One final aspect of the film to look at is the portrayal of the British Airborne Corps commander, Lieutenant General Frederick Browning, played by Dirk Bogarde. Browning, a former Grenadier Guards officer who'd been awarded the Distinguished Service Order in the First World War, comes out of the film badly. He plays down warnings about enemy strength.
Yes, I shouldn't worry about them.
Seems to forget that the Polish General Sosabowski, who commanded 2,000 Polish paratroops, was in his briefing.
Oh, I'm sorry. General Sosabowski?
You go with your Polish brigade with Roy Urquhart.
I'm so sorry.
And having been overconfident throughout, says the operation was overstretched when it fails, coining the famous phrase.
Well, as you'll know, I've always thought that we tried to go a bridge too far.
In fact, Browning had voiced his concern from the start, and apparently described Arnhem as a bridge too far in his first meeting with Montgomery on the plan. He'd also pushed unsuccessfully for extra aircraft to cut the number of drops required, but had lost face with the American general responsible following an earlier dispute. But this aside, he and his headquarters became swept up in the excitement at the prospect of action. The portrayal of him as arrogant and unmoved is perhaps unfair, but his formal manner did not endear him to the Americans in particular. He may also simply have just been out of his depth due to a lack of experience in such a major corps role. So this concludes our look at the film version of The Guards in Market Garden and reality. The film sets out to highlight the heroism of individual soldiers while criticising their leadership, and its treatment of the Guards does this. But overall it's a very accurate portrayal of events and features the Guards Armoured Division strongly in one of its few film roles. If you've enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up and do subscribe to our channel, where we'll be exploring more history and delving into our collection in further videos. You can also check out our new podcast series on Buzzsprout, Bearskins, Bayonets and Bravery, Notes from the Guards Museum. Thank you very much.